Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my back porch. And today, Nathan and I are sitting on my back porch with Erin. And you may be saying to yourself, what's about to happen in this podcast? Erin knows, but she doesn't want to tell us right now.
It's a secret.
About what it will end up doing. By the end, you're going to hear about a really cool project. But you give them a teaser now, because then we're going to talk stories. We're going to have fun. But we all want everyone to know about a really cool project Walter Brueggemann and Team Erin, I don't know if that's your hashtag Team Erin, are doing. And we got to be a part of it this last summer at the Hatchery.
Yes, we did.
Where Brueggemann came to teach Adult Vacation Bible School and a Hebrew Bible class. And then, you know, like, why write a paper for a project if you could just publish a book in honor of Walter Brueggemann? So what's up with that?
Right. What's up with that? I think it was a pretty good idea to approach Brueggemann and just ask whether or not he'd be interested in letting us hijack one of his chapters from his book, Reality, Grief, and Hope. And he said that, yeah, he'd be on board. And so the idea was to honor him and all of his work and do that by allowing the third chapter from that book, which is called Grief Amid Denial, to be a launching pad for a bunch of people, whether they're academics or artists or just, you know, a regular person off the street like myself, and to have whatever's evoked by reading that chapter be put into either word or art form, and then compiling that all into a book similar to what we've originally published, which was It Spooks with John Caputo.
And if for some reason people don't have a copy of It Spooks, then you're just really missing out.
It's a great book.
Thanks for that. That's a solid.
I have two copies. One is the black and white version, and one's the color version. So
the color version is pretty spendy.
That's like a real fan. That's a real fan.
Just saying.
Thanks, Nathan.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you do have two copies of my book? Because I don't.
Tripp, what I really want to know is, do you have a copy? So I'm gonna have to get you one.
Oh, yes.
You do, really?
Yeah, I think there's actually a box of them in my garage.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, because Pete left them.
Well,
I don't even know if he knows I have them, so let's not tell him.
Well, I could take him.
He doesn't listen to this, so it's fine.
Okay.
He only listens to episode T's on.
Well, I give you permission to take one out of the box and take a look.
No, I was going to say people should get it just because Catherine Keller's critical pushback to Caputo in just a few short pages in the form of a letter was excellent.
Yeah, it was more than excellent.
Oh, I agree.
And I think that's my favorite part about it, is that it's so many different mediums. It's not just like an essay and then another essay, right. But there's poetry, there's lyrics, there's letters, and
it was done strategic in some ways, not to become just an echo chamber of the same exact responses to Caputo. And so there's a lot of disagreement amongst it too, which I appreciate. So.
Well, I think the other side of that book, and I think what you're working on here, is that it's normally an edited volume around kind of critical thinking of your faith, is a bunch of some established scholars' peers,
right,
demonstrating that they too can be super smart about the topic that person is. And this is something that takes a multiplicity of voices, locations, styles of communication, mediums, all that stuff seriously. And it's all people who have read and the thinker's thought has mattered, like Caputo or Brueggemann or whatever. But if you tons of people listen to the podcast don't have PhDs, but they also are great thinkers. Like, I get emails, people engage stuff on there, and you're like, junk, you could have done it if you wanted to. Okay. And so these type of projects are, I think, helpful, because a lot of times, if you just go through the academic ringer, a lot of answers have already been eliminated, or thoughts get put off the table and you don't know it. So, like, It Spooks had tons of little insights in it. I was like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that.
Well, and I know that for Caputo, it was a really important thing that he wanted to do, which was make himself more accessible to just the average person. Average is not the word I was going for, but...
No, as long as anyone's ever read Even More Radical Hermeneutics, which is a book title of this, then it did. It's just, if you were thinking accessible
Yes.
And then the other option was Harry Potter. Then you were like, I'm pretty sure you're still writing a Hogwarts manual.
Well, and the cool thing about It Spooks and then this new project with Brueggemann is the idea that you might not connect to the first thing that you see, but if you turn the page to the next, I mean, you're bound to connect. Like there's so many different approaches that, I mean, it does reach a wide amount of people, and I don't know, reach. It definitely is worthwhile to a wide amount of people.
Well, all right. So we're going to end there. But first, you need to tell us about yourself. So, what would be the most awkward first question for someone to ask you when trying to get at your story and how you come to one? You have to drive to a different state to fly to Los Angeles. So
I could have flown. It just was going to be a lot more money. So
you live in South Dakota.
Yep. Rapid City, South Dakota.
Not rabid, rapid. We don't.
That's another city in South Dakota.
So Erin's one of the 100 podcast listeners in the state of South Dakota.
I think that's about as many people as there are in South Dakota. Right?
Well, you know what? We're going to raise that.
Yeah.
With a podcast like this.
We're going to
homegrown South Dakota.
We're going to blow it up.
Hey, there are a lot of people in the middle of nowhere.
No, you don't have to exaggerate it. I know that like within 2 miles of here is more people than the entire state of
Actually, probably that entire region of states, collection of states.
I know, but you can bring all 10 people from the state to Theology Beer Camp this summer.
Actually, I do intend to road trip to Denver in August for those who aren't going.
Yeah, so let's stop.
You can meet me there.
Dakota.
I love South Dakota.
Well, I know you do. You're
Tripp,
just like,
we'll get you out to South Dakota. Have you seen Mount Rushmore? That's not really that much
I
of a...
I love to go see chiseled white presidents.
You could come to... How about Crazy Horse Monument?
Crazy Horse is better.
Yeah.
The Badlands is the best.
Yeah, the Badlands are incredible. Thank you, Nathan.
You're welcome.
Badlands is more of like Michael Jackson type of bad. You know,
No.
No, I meant
like Smooth Criminal.
Oh, bad.
song,
Yeah, like awesome.
the album,
You know, like
Yes.
bad.
like
And it
It's
was
bad.
not-
You know it.
But it's actually good.
Yes. I get it.
I'm going to pass on some high quality Michael Jackson jokes just because it will distract us. So you're finishing up your master's thesis right now at United Theological Seminary.
True.
And, why in the world would you want to go study academic theology? So what in your life made you go, you know what I want to do? Get some student loans to read books?
You know, initially it was actually because I desired to be a hospital chaplain. However, after doing a lot of volunteer hours at Rapid City Regional Hospital and realizing that was a little bit more complicated than I first assessed, meaning sitting with people as they face some of the hard crap in life wasn't quite what I thought it would be. And so ultimately, I stayed the course of theology because I found it really interesting. And I don't know, I'm like floundering here. Tripp, it wasn't a solid question, and I just feel like I don't have a lot to jump off. I'm sorry.
You're not supposed to just judge me while we're recording, but so the desire to like be a chaplain, that comes from somewhere. So what about your life growing up?
Krista Tippett, tell me about your spirituality as a child. I could do that.
No, I don't want to be associated with Krista Tippett. I'd have to talk slower.
She's great, Tripp.
This is not a critique of her.
I've had breakfast with her.
Oh my God. Did y'all like plan like, here's what we're going to do?
No.
Let's just give Tripp a hard time.
I don't know why you're talking
I'll
smack
tone
about
down.
Krista Tippett. That's all.
No.
I think your questions are just great.
Walter Brueggemann has been on Krista Tippett's show.
Oh my God.
That was pretty solid.
Look, I tried to talk Krista Tippett into letting me interview her about interviewing people at Wild Goose because we were both, well, I'm always a Wild Goose.
I have some pull, so
Yeah, I know. Apparently, like next time y'all are having your French toast, you can be like,
I'm going to invite her into a project. It's a pretty solid one. I could tell you about that project, Tripp.
no, I want to know. Like, you have a really cool story. And I'm just trying to ask a giant softball question.
I know, it's a lob ball, and I don't know really how to hit it.
I ask it different ways to theologians.
Out of the park.
At what point in your life did you decide you wanted to be a theologian or something like that?
Right.
But like being a theologian is a lot more reasonable, maybe to me. But but to be like, you know what? I think I'd like to go to grad school so I could be a hospital chaplain and be with people while they're dying. Like that is you have to have like you have to have experiences in your own life that are connected to your faith that think I can show up in those situations and not suck.
Okay.
Because some of us who are ministers are pretty sure we sucked at it for years, learned to fake it, and still have yet to assess whether we're good at it. And I've never heard anyone just say like, you know why I went to div school? And I know tons of great chaplains that came out of div school, but I don't know any of them. They're going in. They're like, maybe second careers students who are like had friends die, like they're old. I guess that didn't sound nice, but you know what I mean?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay.
I'm saying there has to be a reason that you're like, you know what I want to do?
Yeah.
I want to hold that hand.
Well, okay. So if we rewind a little bit, my ex-husband, went to seminary, got his MDiv. And during that, I, read all the papers, more or less went through seminary, with him, like helped with editing and everything else. And so when he graduated, I, not only did I want to be able to become a hospital chaplain, but I also had my appetite wet in a sense, so to speak. And
was this like a more conservative?
Yeah, it actually was. Thank you for bringing that up. It was Bethel, actually, in St. Paul. And so we high-fived, and I started there, and I was in a cohort where I was the only woman, and which was okay. I mean, my cohort was supportive, and, even though some of them thought women shouldn't be in any sort of pastoral leadership role.
I mean, they've read the Bible.
Yeah,
so.
Right? I mean, they get it. Anyway, so then I was 2.5 years into that, and it was an MDiv program. And my grandmother, who at that point had been moved into a nursing home, hated it, had saved all her life for the money to be able to live in a nursing home. It wasn't what she thought. She begged my dad whether she could live with him. And anyway, my dad was like, Erin, you've spouted off enough about the elderly population and how we treat them. And couldn't she move in with you? And I was like, well, crap. Yeah. I mean, yes, she can. And so it turns out that I stopped my degree.
So do you have children at this point?
Yes, I do have 3 children.
No, I meant in your story.
Yeah.
Okay. So your dad's like, you have children and you're married in grad school.
Yep.
Your mom should
That's what we did. Like my mom
sense.
should come live with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it got him out of it. Well, and truthfully, I don't know. For me, it was a refreshing sort of thing because it was something that I had spoken a lot about, this idea, whether it's make believe or not, that we'd sit at the feet of the elders and learn from them instead of talking and saying, oh, you're cute.
The only reason that's
and
thought about being make believe today is, I mean, like every other culture thinks so, right?
Right.
That was before Twitter. So, but nowadays we have like our highest elder in the land on Twitter just passing off wisdom all over the place.
No comment. So
I have lots of comments. But
my
we'll move on.
grandmother moved in. I'm going to keep us on task, boys.
Yeah, you're supposed to. Hey, secretly, you tell more answers if we don't ask questions and make asides.
Oh, really?
So your grandmother moves in.
She did. And she moved in. And I should rewind there and say that where she moved into was a space that we had created with about 12 other people. That was an intentional community, or we like to affectionately call the commune, but it was called Shelter50, which kind of comes from, well, a combination. Shelter came from the Jars of Clay song. In the shelter, we will live with each other. And so that's the idea that we are each other's shelter.
Yeah.
Very Christian, or just human, and human. Great. And the 50 comes from both the New and Old Testament, and it's the idea of the year of Jubilee from the Old Testament, and where slaves and debts, slaves were set free, debt was forgiven, kind of like equalizing movement. And then 50 from the New Testament is the idea of 50 days and then Pentecost. So the Holy Spirit was poured out on everybody equally and the same. And so both were kind of just a strong movement towards equality.
So it's kind of like Acts 29, but different.
Yeah, kind of like
21 more.
I know.
21 more. Yeah.
You know what 21 divided by 3 is?
Yeah, 7.
7.
Most perfect number.
Yeah. Completion.
Well,
All things good.
I know. I mean, this might be our first numerology episode, but
What number? Speaking of, how about Tripp? You know what? We're going to take just a second.
yeah,
Do you know what number you are for numerology? Because I can do that.
I have no idea.
Tripp, we're going to figure this out right now.
What
So
about,
what's your birthday?
Enneagram?
No, hold on. I don't know the
June?
Enneagram. June. So 6. Okay. What
Yeah.
date?
4th,
Okay, that's easy. And what year? Everyone's going to know how old you are.
1982.
Hold on.
You know,
You are a 3.
Trinity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, a 3 is actually really you.
I don't even
What I
know
know-
what we're talking about.
We'll look into it. You can check it out after. But it's like a charismatic,
pretty-
likable person.
It's
Yeah.
all I know is this sounds very demonic, and the evangelical listeners just turned off. I just want y'all to know.
We have
that-
evangelical listeners?
dude, we have a lot that listen on the DL.
You brought up numerology. I learned a trick when I was a kid how to figure it out. So
All right. Well, no
Enough
wonder
said.
you started a Jesus commune for socialists.
Yeah.
So the
I've
intentional
been in
community.
a number of those. None of them have grandmothers move in.
Well, so this one did. And
So it really dropped your hipster ranking down
just only 2 notches, actually. So,
because she was pretty legit for
yeah,
her.
she was.
Hipster.
What was
That's
like your
something
favorite
different for-
meal she made?
She didn't cook. She was in a wheelchair. I cooked for her.
Well, was there not like, was she always in a wheelchair when you knew her?
No, no. She progressively got into a wheelchair. Why she was moved into a nursing home was because she fell and broke her hip and then couldn't walk. So after that. But ultimately, she did introduce me and my family to the Andy Griffith Show and Lawrence Welk, which is pretty good stuff. I mean, I don't know. There's some sexist, racist. Well, there's problems.
Well, unfortunately, nobody will be able
they're-
to watch that anymore since PBS is going to be cut. But
Well, everyone has goals. Like if you just need more battleships, why do you need Andy Griffith reruns? Plus, he was a Democrat from North Carolina.
It's a good
still
point.
love that show.
It is pretty great. But so my grandmother moved in, and Shelter50 was, not only just an intentional community, but it was a space that hosted an incredibly wide variety of events, from yoga to meditation to
In South Dakota.
Rapid City. Yeah.
So you had like all 15 yoga practitioners
you
in
know
the
what?
state.
Maybe we
The
did.
tri-state area.
Rapid City is like, I think 75,000 people. That's
It's smaller than Florida.
anyway.
How many people were in your high school graduating class?
I want to say, I don't have the exact number, but
Are you
between,
Facebook friends with all of them?
I'm not even on Facebook. Tripp.
Oh,
But like 250.
it's
That's
you're
more than
not even
mine.
alive.
Yeah, it is. It's like I am a ghost. Nice. Anyway, so my grandmother moved in. We hosted all sorts of events at this space. And then we had like the monastic hours. So there was, a contemplative presence. There was, it wasn't just Christian stuff too. Like it was very much open to the
Numerology.
Yeah.
understand.
Yes, actually, there was a woman who did come. That's not where I learned it. But anyway, we kind of allowed people to use the space in ways that would benefit like the city, at least the neighborhood we lived in. We hosted meals every week. We ended up, so I got to be a part of planning an event on Pine Ridge Reservation that involved the monks of Taizé, which is a monastery in southern France. And so 6 of the monks came and stayed, and all the people who came through Rapid City.
They're like first visit to the
Yes.
United States.
No, not for the monks. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, I was just imagining.
They get around.
Where they show up and they're like, "Where's the Statue of Liberty?" Like, we have Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. It wasn't
And they're
quite.
like, "Can I
they
go
were
see
a
the
little
David
more
Letterman
educated.
show?"
They were more educated than they knew what they were getting themselves into. But, the point of what I'm trying to say is, the space, I don't know, it was something special. And it was from that space that Shelter50 Publishing Collective was birthed, which is kind of what we're here talking about. So that seems important.
So, what would you say about, what were the intuitions going into starting Shelter50 and coming out of it that, if you're thinking, there's a lot of younger listeners that are going, all right, I'm going to go start something like that. Now, no one goes into it going like, my grandmother's going to move in.
Right.
I'm going to start a publishing company.
Right.
And then it'll dissolve at some point and things. Like, looking back at it, what would you say have been kind of the biggest learnings and blessings and things from that process?
Yeah, I think for me, the willingness to be able to enter vulnerably with other people that, I mean, specifically for us. So me and my ex have 3 children, and the other family that we moved in with initially had 3 children. So already you have these dynamics of, you know, parenting styles that are different, and, you know, you romanticize the idea it takes a village to raise a child, and that's well and good. But then when you're actually practicing it, it's a little bit different. And I would say that for me, the blessings were being able to be exposed to different people's stories and ways that they interact and learn. And I don't know, being able to collaborate with people. I don't even know. It's funny that you ask what the blessings are. And I've talked at great length with a lot of friends about the things I really loved. But what's coming to mind right now are all of the harder things for some reason. So,
go for it.
Yeah. So to be authentic in it, you know, we would have a weekly like grievances, like where we would, you know, everybody would get together at a house meeting and just talk about what, you know, what that week was hard or what worked or didn't work. And I feel like for me, what was positive out of that was the idea that we could be honest and vulnerable and be able to share your mind. And I don't know,
so I had a friend tell me, use that example, and was like, yeah, I mean, after it, I realized we had to do that in order to have a community. After I realized there's a reason it was difficult, because my wife and I stopped doing it the moment we were in the intentional community, because no one wants their grievances shared every day. Cause you know, like when you have like, it's time for us to reflect on this.
Yeah.
You have to come up with something.
Right.
And then when there's not other people in the room, you respond to it like there's no other people in the room.
Right.
And, so like, I mean, if people have never been in a situation like that,
yeah,
where all of a sudden, like, you know, other people smell what goes on in your bathroom,
right,
metaphorically, than just.
Well, and we
people.
had 13 people sharing. There were 2 bathrooms.
Yeah, so literally,
only one shower.
It's kind of like the Hatchery.
Yeah.
Are we gonna go there?
Let's go there.
No. Look,
No?
I
Okay.
use the restroom in the same time every day, and it's right next to Nathan's desk.
Okay, let's not go there.
and he likes to give me a hard time.
Well, not as hard of a time as you like to give me at 9:00 every morning.
Between 9 and 9:15.
No, I mean, for those listeners that are thinking about the idea of intentional community, truthfully, I would do it again. The differences would be, like, I loved and still love the people that I was able to do it with, but there are different types of people. And so my ex and I were very much more like visionaries. We also were the people who would get it done. Like, and so you want to partner with some other people that have ideas, and so you're collaborating more. And I guess for me, we had people that were willing and excited about the idea, but as far as what to do or how to do it, they'd look to us every time. And that, it worked. And there were dynamics of that I feel like were really healthy, but there were times where then it was like, if I, you don't have a manual, like you're trying your best to figure it out as you go.
You mean
and
other than Acts chapter 2?
Oh yeah. Well, they shared everything. Yeah, I know. That's true. That's a great manual. However, and we did actually, we pooled funds for food, and we had somebody who was in charge of like going to the co-op and, making sure that, meals were planned, and we did dinner, we cooked. I mean, it was, there were a lot of romantic things about it in like real ways. I guess for me, if you're going to do something like that, be ready to have your selfishness and your own issues magnified. And I think that's great. Like, that's what marriage does. I think that's what having children does. And living with another family or living with more people, where you're exposing yourself to, like the things that might trigger you or bring up your own insecurities and issues. It gives you plenty of opportunity to work through that. And
So you have 3 kids, and you and your ex are both in seminary.
Yeah. Well, my ex had already graduated at that point.
Okay. And your grandmother moves in.
Yes. So she moves in.
So like if we were doing that like stress points thing.
I know. And then you have to wonder how all the cards fell down or the card house. Or
were
whatever.
they tarot cards?
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I know.
Did you say tarot?
Nice. Yeah, I know it's tarot, or isn't it?
Well, I was saying that so people knew.
I
wasn't.
You didn't know
what you're talking about.
Yeah, because
you don't want to ruin your credit.
That was very
I have
sly.
not kicked Jesus out of my heart yet.
Yeah.
For pagan rituals. And,
I have to speak that my voice is horrible right now. This is hard to do a podcast. I'm not sick, but I do have some sort of laryngitis, I think. So I appreciate you listeners hanging in there.
Well, if y'all all go back to episode 20 and hear the last time she was on the podcast.
Oh my goodness.
She has this thick, rich voice. So,
Anyway, so grandmother moves in. That was pretty amazing at points too, just being able to, so everything that I was drawn to in hospital chaplaincy and then felt like, oh, this is a little different than I thought, was almost like reimagined in having my grandmother there and getting to take care of her. Mm-hmm. And then, she was put on home hospice, about almost a year into her living with us. So it was like 11 months. And so then we decided to keep her home, and cause that's what she wanted. And so I got to walk her to her death.
Was it, what was the cause?
Just old age, and she was 89. And
okay. Well, you said broken hip at some point.
Yeah, she had broke the hip, and then I just think she deteriorated, as time went. I just think, we're all on a mortality clock here. And
so that process of being with someone through it, I mean, coming in, I guess it wasn't like, oh, this is an immediate issue. It's family going, hey, can you rock this for us? Because, and I think we're at a time more and more families are going to be going, hey, family's supposed to figure this out. We all don't even live in the same cities. Everyone's in different economic conditions, blah, blah, blah. What do we do? So I'm interested in what was going through Nathan's head in thinking about this, because he's been a primary caretaker for his brother before. And like, what are the like caretaking for family member insights that people have never done that before? Like what do those learnings experiences do? And not just because they're obviously different situations, a grandmother and a brother, but because both those experiences, you saying, oh, the elderly, we neglect them and leave them out. Well, same for disabled members of our families and congregations and in society. So sometimes it's like, in order to really gain from those insights, you listen to people that have done the day-to-day part of caretaking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's my situation was obviously different, but there's a certain obligation and duty that you feel. It's like, wow, I don't really know if I want to do this, and you feel guilty for thinking, oh, I don't really know. Like, what a terrible thing to think. Like, it's your family, you care about them. It's sort of what you're supposed to do, but on the back of your mind, you can't. It's like, oh, I don't really want to do that,
right?
And so the hard part for me was overcoming like my own hesitance towards even doing something like that. It's like you want to be a good person and you want to do the right thing, but there's a part of you that's like doesn't want to be bothered at all. It's like, oh, can't someone else deal with this? Like, does it have to be me? Well, yeah, it does actually. There's like no one else to do it, and I think we're getting to the point now, especially with some current events that are transpiring, that there are going to be more and more people that are in that situation where it's like there's no one else to do this.
Right.
There's no one else that's able to do this. The government can't do this. The church has failed in so many ways at doing this job. So what do we do? And I mean, that's what I find, inspiring about your story is that you had enough, wisdom to be able to see what needed to be done, and you were willing to do it and willing to take the steps to do it. And I think that more often than, well, I don't know. I know a lot of people who are forced into that situation. Right. that it's not really a choice that they make. It's just sort of, this is the reality, and you kind of have to do with it what you can. So I mean, I don't know what your response is to that, but I think that we're going to enter a time where, like Tripp said, more and more people are finding themselves in this situation. So did you feel that? Did you feel that tension between like wanting to do it, but also not wanting to do it at all? I mean, 'cause part of it's like, I don't really know how to do this. Right. There's no training. You can't like take a class on how to take care of your, right. What do you know what I mean? Like, what do you do? So what would you say to people who are going to find themselves in a situation where they either take care of their family member or no one else does? Yeah. I think for me, there was this awareness, and it's a little bit different, with your brother, because with my grandmother, it's like we are all headed that way. Sure. You know, and, and so there's this deep awareness that, you know, not only did my grandmother help take care of me, you know, at different stages when I was a kid, I'd spend the night at her house or whatever. And so did she change my diaper? Maybe. I mean, you know, and so when I had to change hers, right, it became this like real, raw and, I don't know, in a sense, beautiful thing where this lifespan where, you know, when we're born, we're really in need of other people. And then when we age and we're dying, we're in need of other people. And it's compassion and awareness that like we're all at different spots in this, you know, life, death scenario. And so it wasn't that I, you know, was always super excited to be like, oh, Grandma, you're up at 2 a.m. and you want me to get you like a sandwich. Well, and truthfully, funny little story. One time when she woke up, cause it was really hard to set boundaries cause this is your grandma. Right. Like a kid, you're like, go back to bed. Like it's bedtime. But your grandmother is like, well, I'm really hungry and could you get me this? And
plus in their 80s, you feel a little guilty spanking them. I mean, if they're 13, 14 is kind of the age where it starts to feel bad. Man. Anyway, Tripp, we're just going to blow past, blow past that. It was a joke just to clarify. I get it. But, I was going to say like spare the rod, spoil the child and like fuel the flame. But then I was like, nah, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, so that particular evening, my grandmother asked me to make her a sandwich, and the cat, we had a couple kitties, and the cat jumped on the bed and was like kind of going crazy, like meowing, like, oh, I want food. And I was talking with my grandmother in my mind, trying to figure out a way that I was going to let her down gently. Like, I can't feed you right now. And I turned to the cat and I'm like, oh, the cat's hungry. And then I say to my grandmother, you know, this cat just wants me to feed it. But like, if I feed it right now, it's going to wake me up every night at 2:00 to feed it. And suddenly I was like, I'm talking about my grandma. I'm not talking about the cat. And my grandma kind of met eyes with me. And I was like, Grandma, I can't give you a sandwich. Like it's, you know, like breakfast will come. I'll see you at breakfast. And I left the room and it was like super hard. It's not like, you know, but anyway, the point, I guess, in all of that is to say that, you know, this isn't something that is just happening to other people. Like if we can, as humans, really accept, that we're all in different spots on this and that we're all going to be in different spots. And so, you know, when I'm 89, gosh, I would be thrilled if my granddaughter took that chance on me. Or look, 3 kids that watch you do this, one of them's got to have a child that's going to step up. The level of guilt they can lay down is going to be so high. They're going to be like, you do know what your grandmother did? Now, if she ever asks for a sandwich after midnight, you're going to be like, no, shut it down. Absolutely not. But outside of that, but it was profound. And my kids were a big part of like spending time with her. Actually, my oldest, at that point, she was like being dual enrolled, which was half homeschooled and half going to public school. And one of her assignments was to interview my grandmother. And she came up with it as like an idea, but she wrote a book. And at my grandma's funeral, she handed out copies to everybody in the family, but of these stories. And so she would sit and interview. So she actually did the legitimate sit at the feet of the elder and ask questions. And my grandmother was not one to like spout off all this wisdom, but she had a ton of wisdom that would be spilled out, you know, accidentally. So is this, guess we shouldn't use your kids' names, but your daughter we met tonight.
Yeah. This is the same one. Yes.
The same one. Okay.
Yep. So anyway, but so, you hinted at, so that's a lot of stress and a lot of stuff to pile on. And yes, it was like after my grandmother died, it was a couple days after she passed away that then, my now ex, kind of came to his own understanding that a lot of stuff, specifically with God, had like really unraveled for him. And it's not like that was a new thing for us. I think we walked through a lot of, the unravelings of God and the dark night of the soul and coming back to God.
I don't know any married couple that both went to seminary together that doesn't say that.
Oh.
Alicia will just say like, we've been married 3 times. It just happened to be the same person.
That's great.
But like that all included like going like, yeah. There are like multiple versions of us that have all died and you had to like grieve it, get pissed about it, and then still decide you wanted to figure out if you wanted to work on. So like that experience, and I know plenty of people that the divinity school did that to them.
Right.
It sucks.
Well, I wouldn't particularly blame divinity school, though I'm sure it was a component. But I would say that the dynamics of, midlife passage, as Jung would put, or like you could say midlife crisis. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to what my ex went through, but I will say that for him, it no longer worked to be in an intentional community, or for that matter, he was a pastor. So to lead a congregation, or for that matter, to be married. And so that was a pretty big, and it wasn't even just that. So my grandmother died, then that was kind of unloaded, and then leaving Shelter50, because if we weren't going to stay together, that whole dream and that intentional community, as I mentioned, was built really on us and our vision. And so if we weren't together, that was a really hard thing to recognize and accept that was going to die too. And for me, the meditative practice of morning, midday, and evening prayer, and it was open to Buddhists and Hindu, and it was a pretty incredible, I feel like, group of people that would gather together from different religions even. And anyway, that all died at the same time. So it was a lot of death, which for me, I guess felt like an initiation into humanity, because I felt like I had really lived on the mountaintop. My marriage was actually really great. And for 15 years, it was something that I had never heard of in any other situation. And so that was it. It's still to this day hard for me to reconcile that ended. It doesn't make sense. And yet this is where I am. And I'm in a much better spot with accepting that. But for me, the publishing collective, was something that in a sense gets to live on. It's almost like the Shelter50 space, might not exist, but the Shelter50 Publishing Collective, in a sense, maybe currently in a more conceptual way, carries that space forward and that idea. And it's this idea of, not being colonized by anything, but simultaneously being open, to diverse expressions and imaginative undertakings. And not even just from within Christianity, but from without Christianity too. So for me, from the death, something else came through too. And I feel like, our culture isn't great at walking through death or accepting death or realizing, I loved how you said, with you and Alicia, it's like there has been death and rebirth. And I think that that's a natural part of relationships, of even our own self-discovery. Because there's things in us that don't serve us anymore. And if we cling to them and carry them forward, we're living inauthentically. And so to let that kind of be sloughed away, or however you want to describe it, is important. And so I feel like for the publishing collective, it has life and still, has a lot to potentially offer, but it just doesn't have a house or, I guess a intentional community anyway to house it.
So what was the experience like? So the publishing collective exists while at the same time you are figuring out how to piece together what you do with family, the relationships among all the family and everyone, but also the other people in the community. And then, and this part I think is true of any minister family that goes through either divorce or leaving communities of faith that they were intimately involved in. If you have kids, and then you don't know what in the world to do, and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, probably because of the podcast, when people go through those things, that's when they decide to send me 3,000 word emails. So I couldn't exaggerate the number of people that have or probably will go through those type of experiences that listen. So if you were talking to yourself in the middle of it, having got to the place you are now, like, what kind of things would you have said, hey, put this on the front burner, be okay with that, and trust this part of what's going on? Like, what would be like the advice you gave to yourself when so much of your faith, your family, the community, and belonging, and all the things you kind of took for granted start shifting?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because when your identity is built on not only, like this relationship with this other person, and who you are in relationship to them, but also like the ministry and the things that you're doing. So when all of that falls apart, for me, one of the biggest things that I have to or that I guess I could say in some sort of encouraging way towards someone else that might be going through that would be to have compassion for yourself, to be patient with yourself. I'm not going to start to say that, where I am now is, I went through it and I'm perfectly fine now on the other side, and, praise God, it's all perfect. No, I think part of walking your faith and living it out loud is accepting that, it's not all perfect. And not only that. And so for me, what is ironic and funny, I sat across the table from, I can't tell you how many people that walked through divorce or suffered or had friends that died or a child that died or, all these things. And I empathize and I genuinely felt, as much as I could of their pain. But I had my own little bubble of like my perfect little life. And that's not to say that I didn't walk through, I had sexual abuse as a kid. I mean, I walked through things, but, for me, it never was right up close and personal. I mean, there's a poem, I forget who it's by, but it's Breathing Underwater. Richard Rohr talks about it in his book, Breathing Underwater. But the idea is that the ocean lived next door to me for a really long time. And it was like, we had an understanding, but then one day without warning, the ocean came and it just overwhelmed, obliterated the house. And now I have to learn how to breathe underwater. And that, for me, really depicted this idea of, like I mentioned, being initiated into humanity, but it's this idea that, suffering isn't like picking and choosing who is going to suffer. We all suffer. That's a part, I think pain is a part of existence. It's a part of love for sure. Yeah. And I guess, so for me, a big piece of being able to walk through this is to realize, number one, it's not going to always be like this. I have, bouts of existential stuff. For me, the biggest thing that I think I've learned is that when you're on top of the mountain and things are okay, that is impermanent. Like, it's not going to be forever. And when you're in the valley or like your whole life just got blown up, that won't be forever either. And so both have things to teach you. But, I think to make any kind of, strong, solid decision about what to put on the back burner or the front burner, I think instead being able to just sit, observe yourself in it, allow the emotions to happen, embrace those pieces of you. Like, there's so much, insecurity and hurt feelings and things like that come up. And, our natural inclination is to push that away and say, well, that's not me. Like, I'm actually like a very put together person. And no, that is me. I'm a mess. And I want to invite that piece of me, and welcome them and then soothe them and hopefully be able to live from a spot that's not, quite that emotionally reactionary. But if you're walking through something like that, giving yourself compassion and being patient, like, it takes time. Like, I don't, I'm not on the other side of it, but I'm in a much different spot than I was. There's things that are hopeful. Again, God feels really real to me again. God was dead through a lot of this. And part of it was, I think I needed God to die because that piece of me died. And so I don't know. That was a lot. Who knows if I answered your question or not, but there you go, Tripp.
Well, I'm not going to grade it. But
if you did, would you give it what? A B or
no?
C plus?
That was high quality shit. I just like, if someone's answer on the podcast like actually makes me think of my own life, then I always feel like that's successful. And like theologians are good at avoiding doing that. So, you've managed to like not eliminate your humanity.
Tripp.
Nathan just looked at me. He's like, if there's a group hug at the end of this, like I'll participate in spirit. So you're in LA with your daughter.
Yep, I sure am.
Like, it's clearly a very strategic trip that you've planned. Like, this is like mother-daughter moment time. It's also a trip I could imagine that years back you would have never thought this is how, like, this was not have been on your agenda and stuff.
Right.
And, I don't know, this could just be Tripp projecting, but like, when Alicia and I rediscovered what our relationship meant and stuff, like after having
and stuff, I like that.
Re-embraced us being fully present as we really are. I have this theory that when people get married, they get married, and then after the first 5 or 6 years, you realize that, like, well, you love the person, but you were always expecting them to change in the person you thought they were in their head, and then they don't.
Yep.
Then you have to decide if you are going to keep showing up.
Yep.
And I always tell people when I do premarital counseling, which if you worked at a very large church on a cliff in Los Angeles, you've done a lot of premarital counseling. So I just tell them, you're volunteering to have this person hurt you more than anyone else will. And that's if y'all break up or not.
Yep.
Like, so that's like, this is what's going to happen. And then eventually you realize they're not the person you imagine in your head. Mm-hmm. Then you realize they're not going to change. And then you realize that you both are going to have to still show up to that other person. And by the time you realize that, you both made a fool of each other.
Right.
And you've really hurt each other. But you've also now at this point have a history where real beautiful things are in it.
Yep.
Which could be like kids or memories or like you're present for the person changing or not, like, and all that kind of stuff.
Witnessing all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you go through those type of things and then you go like, I mean, Alicia and I are about to have a new child. This was unlike the other two.
Yeah.
Cora's arrival was a different marriage and family than Elgin's was. Right. So and each time I go, Elgin, you got screwed. We didn't even know what we were doing. Like, we were horrible humans. We didn't know how to be married.
Right.
And I was like, Cora, you lucked out. And now I'm like, oh, we're a lot better at this.
Right.
Haven, you're going to be born. And I know, clearly know what we're doing, and we probably don't. But like, there's this new, like, oh, we're moving or changing. And I think like life keeps doing those things. And so when you think back to everything that goes through your mind as a parent when you're holding a kid for the first time, and then you end up in this new place where, like, she doesn't know exactly what y'all are doing when you're here. And yet the way you're describing it and looking at her is like the sheer joy of like, I get to have this experience with you. And I know that like that was not on the itinerary when you held her for the first time.
Right.
And it takes levels of growth internally to go like, I'm going to joyously seize a moment I would have not chose at all.
Yeah.
And yet I'm seizing it and there's joy in it. And like, I don't even like feel like wasting time on the other version right now because this is so cool.
Right.
Personally, I'm just trying to decide which side of Disneyland we're going to go into or like what random pagan ritual you're going to engage in Los Angeles. But like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I think there's like a couple things that come up when you're talking. First, I don't know. I appreciate what you shared about you and Alicia and this idea of love being risky. Like, I don't know. I think nobody who gets married thinks they're going to get divorced. I mean, that's not why you get married. And so, I don't know. And then something else that came up, I think, is this idea, Jung talks about the idea of second half of life, love. And so the midlife passage, and it's exactly what you're saying, or at least the way I'm understanding him is what I'm understanding you saying. And that's the idea that at first you project all this stuff onto the person that you love. And then, like it's the quote, and I'll slaughter it, by Thomas Merton, but it talks about, if you only love what you find that is lovely in someone else, then you're actually not loving them. You're loving yourself, and that's a major paraphrase. But the idea is that, when you finally allow the person that you're with, to be who they are, and then love them for that instead of who you think they're going to change into, or who you want them to be, or who you thought they were, that's when love actually happens. And I do think that's beautiful. There's something about that really resonates with me. And I guess, I think about, you're talking about kids and when you first hold them, and then to end up here now in LA, and my daughter will be 15 next month. And a big part of this trip is because it's her golden birthday. Yeah. So April 15th, and it's to celebrate her. And yeah, I could have never thought or foreseen that we would be here doing this. And not only that, but when you have a divorce be a part of your story, like I never thought that was going to be a part of it. And so it's shaped, when your kids walk through something like that, they're different too. And anyway, I guess I'm like going on, but the point is that I feel, there's something about being in the moment and being able to just be grateful that I get to watch this young woman like emerge. And there's parts that I, can take credit for on both the negative things and the positive things, but really truthfully, she is becoming who God's created her to be. And I don't have as much other than just to get to witness that, make space for her to, give her, as much support as I can to help her strengths emerge and give her coping strategies for things that maybe she struggles with or whatever. And theoretically be doing the same thing for myself along the way. But yeah, being a mother is a pretty, tricky, but incredibly fruitful, or I don't know, what fruitful is not the word I was thinking, but, honoring, humble, like incredible job.
Well, yeah,
as I stumble through that.
No, like,
and Nathan, we see you over there. You're here. We see you.
Here I am.
It's really hard to get him to say things.
It is not. That is not true.
He would talk. We just, are excluding him right now, Tripp. We need to bring him in.
Well, I wanted to say one other thing around that was, I gave those examples, but I suck at giving affirmation, so I'll retry again. Like I was saying, like, in a marriage, and you learn those type of things. And then with the kids, you can learn those over time. Like, I have another kid, and you realize this, and you realize it with them. When you hit it at the end, like the biggest challenge for kind of death is actually a gift.
Yes.
In giving yourself permission to become someone else.
Yes.
And a lot of times early in our lives, the ones we refuse to let die are the people that we see holding that like cherished version of ourselves in our head in place. So some of us, we have to let our parents die in order to grow and change.
That's
some of it's our partner.
Trip.
Some of us, we exported on our kids and stuff. And, kind of what I was projecting on you and thinking after dinner and stuff tonight was like what I saw beautiful was like having learned from your own story in which at first happens externally. Yeah. Parents, grandmother, partner, children.
Right.
Was then like, no, like I have to be cool with death. And now I get to show up and know like each little amazing thing I'm about to have with my daughter is totally cool, but I'm not in charge of her because I'm not even sure I'm in charge of myself yet. Yeah. And that's a very different...
I like that projection. I'm okay with it.
I was like, you're basically a bodhisattva at this point. And so to me,
he's only called one other person that, just so you know, and that's high praise.
No, because I feel like that is a lesson that, and this is the first time I tried articulating, but I've been trying to think about it in that we have like, relationships dying, and you have like parents and kids and partners and all that kind of stuff. And at some point it becomes a lesson and gives us permission to let previous versions of ourselves die. And the objectified version of ourselves we hold in our head. Yeah. It's like in the same way that we can't be friends if I just like make you the object. Yeah. Namely, the person Pete didn't tell me was spending the night when he showed up and he wasn't here. It all began. But, you know, like, and in my head, I'm like, why does this person think they're staying here? Yeah. Or like Nathan and I met at PYM a couple of years ago, and like we literally hung out just because Pete and Tony made us go to some loud place, and I have bad hearing. So I can't talk to people in a loud bar, but it was like some fancy thing at the top of something, which is like made for Pete Rollins, like low light. It's very. I don't even know what PYM is. Progressive Youth Minister Conference. Oh, duh. Okay. My bad. And so we're next to each other because they invite us, but they aren't actually want to talk to us. And so they gave you each other to babysit each other, right? Yeah. Basically, which we had never met, but he's next to me and we both have hearing issues. So the next thing I find like a new friend, but, and I'm like, also realized that they were paying. So I wanted to see how many bourbons it took to get one of those big circle ice cubes about. So how many? What was the lucky number? I lost count. I don't know. I snored loud that night, but like just in the sense that like you have like in life, you have all of these experiences and relationships. And then if the person is always something you've decided they are, right? Like Nathan that day and me that day was like, I'm at PYM. These people like my podcast. I'm being cool and shit. Right. And he's like, somehow I managed to be like one of the two attendees at the like speakers hanging out, bourbon drinking, and I have a pimp ass beard and I'm just a youth group volunteer at something. And I like your podcast. I know Pete, like this is cool. And the sound guy's hanging out with us. And then like the three of us get in this long conversation. I'm like, I like him. That's awesome. But now he's like even more amazing. But I had to be like cool with him not being that person. Right. Cause then that like idea of a person in your head has to die in order for them to be a subject. Yeah. Cause we make people objects. Yeah. And we see it first in relationships with others, but then we realize that we do it to ourselves. Yeah. We do it to ourselves. And if you give yourself the freedom to remain a mystery to yourself. Yeah. That is an extremely liberating thing. Yeah. And hey, that's what I was projecting on you. No, I'm really comfortable with that projection. Yeah, I think we do that with God too. No way. What? You're saying that we could turn God into an objectified thing? Yep. It's like there's a whole, like, that's one of the 10 Commandments, but you just ripped that from Moses. It's called idolatry, but it's true. It's no new thought. It's important. You have to learn how not to speak of God. And weird. You just totally plugged Pete's book. Way to go. I know. Well, it's the one where I still believed in God. So actually, that's a beautiful book. That book was maybe one of the, well, I mean, it was the first book I read of Pete's, and I was like, I like this guy. That's where we connected. The first half was great. I was totally into the apophatic and the unknowing. It was cool. So I don't give compliments like that on the podcast. I now feel uncomfortable just by being that, like, affirmative. It's going to ruin my street cred. Well, if we need to delete it because you can't handle, but that was in all in all sincerity, thank you. So, Nathan, I made you plug a third microphone in because I expected you to say something again. Well, I'm just, and then I proceeded to not ever have a pause. I don't have children. Correct. But mine might like you as much as they like me. That's true. I heard Cora call Nathan her boyfriend tonight. Can you blame him? No. She was true story. She's very disturbed that Miriam, which is Nathan's wife, I know. Emphasized to her. She's like, is Schmafen my boyfriend? It's so funny, like how
jealous Miriam gets of Cora.
Well,
it's hilarious.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that
maybe you need to make it clear to Cora that you're married.
Alicia might be a bit jealous. She's like, why did you tell Cora that you only have one princess? And I was like, yeah, because you're a feminist and you have no interest in it. And she loves princess. And she said, can I be your princess? And I said, yes. And if you asked me that, I would have said, are you under the influence? Okay. I guess that's okay, Tripp.
Yeah.
So back to you, Nathan.
No, I mean, the situation with my brother, which is the closest point of reference I have for what you guys are talking about, is very different because...
Give like a 30-second setup in case someone, for some reason, hasn't listened to previous episodes.
I know. What is wrong with those people?
Well, and P.S., you do have another point of reference in that you're married, and we've been talking a lot about that too.
That's
but,
true. That's true.
You can put that aside if you'd like and continue with your brother.
But yeah, I was just thinking about the children aspect.
Right.
You know, having kids. My brother is severely disabled, developmentally, intellectually, physically. He has cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and autism, and can't speak. Is in adult diapers and can't take care of himself or anything. So there's no way to communicate with him verbally. One of the hardest things I think for my mother and even for our mother and for myself is not, we don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what he's feeling. There's no way to get a response from him verbally. And even his nonverbal responses are still somewhat of a mystery. I mean, I feel like we think we understand it really well, but there's really no way to know. I remember one time, this was Christmas Eve. I don't know how old I was, probably 12, 13, something like that. My sister was supposed to watch him. He fell down the basement stairs. And
Nathan, is he older or younger?
He's younger. He's 2 years younger than me. And like a huge flight of stairs into the basement, like concrete floor in the basement. And everyone just like stops and is like, oh my God, what just happened? And he's down there just laughing his head off. Fell down a flight of stairs, laughing his head off. Call the ambulance, they can't come and check him out. He's totally fine. But knowing that he laughed after something that had to have hurt, like objectively hurt, really makes you question when he laughs and you're like just sitting on the couch together, like what does this even mean? I don't even know.
Right.
So to think about the version that I have of him in my head and the version he has of him in his head and of me in it, like there's no way to know what that is. And
I wonder, this is a tiny little caveat, but you can come back to what you're saying, but I wonder how true that is in every relationship.
Right.
Like and not even I wonder, I believe that your relationship with your brother allows like a blatant truth to be seen. That's a truth between me and you and Tripp. It's a truth between.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's the mirror-like quality of the other is no more apparent than when I interact with him, because I can't help but project my own self onto him, because there's no way to access his inner life.
Right.
So I mean that's just what I'm thinking about over here is the letting die of the version of ourselves that we have, or the version of someone else that we have, just takes on a different quality when you have no access to that person. And the other thing I'll say is the biggest and scariest thing for me in relationship to him is not that I hold to some notion of who he is and treat him like that. Like I said, that I don't have access to that. So
like you don't have the ability to even, you don't have a veneer that allows you to make it.
Right.
So the thing that scares me the most is not being there to take care of him. Like that something's going to happen to me before it happens to him. So that my mom's going to die one day. that's going to happen. And if that happens before I die, then I'm going to be taking care of him.
Right.
What's going to happen when I die?
Right.
If he's still alive? You know what I mean? Like, that's
right.
just, so in some sense, I can't understand what you guys are talking about when you're talking about your children, because they have the ability to take care of themselves.
Right.
And the worry and the concern about objectifying them, turning them into some kind of object of your own making, and letting that die to let them sort of be themselves.
Right.
Yeah, it means something different in this circumstance, because I can't give him that freedom, in a sense, because if I'm not here, and if our mother's not here, I have no idea what's going to happen to him.
Right.
You know, I have to trust other people to take care of him, or other people to do the right thing. And historically, that's not been a good choice.
I don't know. Like, for me, what that brings up, and where I maybe could draw at least a point of connection between kind of what Tripp and I were saying with the children, and also what you're saying about your brother, is this idea of lack of control.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that, you know, it's easier said than done, but like, control is an illusion, like, in our lives. And when your kids are little, it's easy to think, okay, I have control of the situation, who they're going to be friends with, like who you make play dates with, you know, yada, yada, yada. Well, kids nowadays, I mean, a lot of kids get cell phones like at a really young age, and they're already talking to friends or doing, you know, and I'm not going to make statements about that. My daughter, who's with me, who's almost 15, has asked not to have a cell phone. Like, she's going to be driving next year, because in South Dakota you can drive at 14. But I said, you're going to have a cell phone then. And she's like, well, I want a flip phone then, because otherwise, you know, it's just, anyway, she has her whole reason and sets of reasons. But I guess for me, the biggest thing that, you know, feels like a point of connection is this idea that we don't have control. Yeah. And so in that, it's not to say that your worry about what would happen once you and your mom are both gone, and if he's still alive, isn't valid, but it's almost like there's nothing you can do about it. Right. And so being able to be present, it kind of goes back to what Tripp was saying about this idea that now, you know, I get to come along on this trip with my daughter, and it's not about me needing to, I don't know, have us check this and this and this off our list. It's more about, hey, I get to be in this moment with her, and we get to travel together. And she's at this age where, I mean, she profoundly blows my mind on a regular basis, you know, and you know, it drives me crazy too. Like, I'm not gonna romanticize it. Like, and I'm sure I drive her crazy at times. I mean, like, it's amazing that she still thinks I'm
sure
great.
Every 15-year-old.
I know. She's not 15 yet, Tripp. It'll be next month.
My bad.
Oh, that's all right. I don't mind. But anyway, so lack of control.
Everyone knows she's also 6'1".
Yeah, I know. I'm 6'2".
I know, but she's not 15 yet.
I know. It's true.
I recognize a lot of the impulses that your daughter has, because I was the same exact way when I was her age. I'm not gonna get a cell phone. That's dumb. I don't want to drive. That's stupid. So.
Well, and you turned out okay. So.
Well, that remains
to be seen. So you're telling me no.
So when.
Hey, P.S. This is another like totally random plug.
Oh, wow.
But we have a new website, Shelter50 Publishing Collective. It just is getting launched now. I have this friend who happens to be in Belfast right now because her husband is going to Queen's University, but her name is Becca Ulicic. And one of the books that we published, called Stained, happens to be by her and her husband. It's pretty brilliant.
Is it about that band Stained?
No, it sure isn't. You're gonna have to check it out. I
saw Stained in concert once.
Oh my goodness. I've never even heard of Stained. Are they good?
No.
I just got the biggest, I don't know what you want to call that. It wasn't an eye roll, but like.
I'm sure you've heard a song.
Stained?
There's one of, go ahead and finish that, because this is a really
Publishing
funny,
Collective
but
website.
not necessary story.
Check it out. It's through WordPress, and it's Shelter50Publishing.com. And the 50 is not FIFT, it's 50. So there you go. you can check it out.
Check it out.
Well,
that was me just trying to, buy you time to play a Sustained song.
Oh.
How will you choose about?
I mean, well, there's what's that? The really popular one of theirs.
It's obviously not that popular.
Oh no, you'll remember it.
Oh, that's it.
This is Sustained?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually like this song.
So
I think they only ever did ballads, didn't they?
No, most of their songs are not like this at all.
Oh, really? That's the one.
Wow.
I want you to know that this is the first 30 seconds of this song are things you can use with your friends on a regular basis.
You didn't expect to get some sort of ballad played to you, but
that's
another.
The other one.
Oh yeah, but ding ding ding, because they had an album called Shades of Grey.
So emo.
I might have to take that podcast or that.
But this is
there we go.
So this song is the one, the live version he does with Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit, because what says duo throwing Limp Bizkit into a song. And so when Alicia and I started dating, we were in college, and my godparents' son wanted to go to the Family Values tour.
Of course.
Which is the tour put on by Korn and other bands. And this year, the Family Values tour was headlined by Stone Temple Pilots, which for Tripp was just this is the greatest thing.
Right. Could imagine.
Yeah. And no, Korn didn't even play. So I don't know who started this thing, but in my head, it was always Korn until this year. And then it was Stone Temple Pilots. And it was Static X, which is hardcore, screaming metal band. Stained, and, what's that band called? They rap and scream. The lead singer now is the lead singer for Stone Temple Pilots. And
you're looking at me. I got nothing. Keep going, Tripp. It's okay.
No, they're now bigger than the biggest band of it. And then anyway, but Stained was right before Stone Temple Pilots. But it doesn't matter. Stone Temple Pilots live is one of the best experiences, as long as everyone's not on too much heroin that they forget the lyrics. But Alicia says yes to going to this, but we were given the tickets to babysit, and it's 2 weeks after 9/11. And so almost no one that bought tickets goes. And we had to switch venues because there was you remember there were back in the day, there were people mailing letters with
powder in it
or whatever. Yeah. So it's in a hockey rink. And they, in Charlotte, not the Charlotte Coliseum, and not that many people went. So everyone that is there, except for maybe 50 people, are all on the floor in a giant mosh pit. The rest of us are chaperones, and we're up high. Alicia, she doesn't tell me this. She just said yes to going. Has never been to a secular concert before. I was in band, so I went to concerts and had played them all the time.
So she was terrified.
And I was a musical theater person, so the worst thing that happened on your weekends was cast parties. So this was not a new experience to me. Well, this little bitty hockey rink was not built to have 2,000 people smoke weed between bands in it and sustain the smoke well. So it's between before Stone Temple Pilots is coming on. And I'm just it's okay. These other bands are new or whatever. Man, it's going to irritate me. I can't remember. What is the band where the dude from Stone Temple? Just Google it right now.
I tried.
Stone Temple Pilots, new lead singer. It's
Scott Weiland? No,
Scott Weiland's the guy that died.
Okay.
the new singer for Stone Temple Pilots.
Okay, keep telling your story.
He's not
we'll
nearly as good. He lives in Palos Verdes. His kids came to Vacation Bible School at the church I worked at.
Oh, Lincoln Park.
Yeah, Lincoln Park.
Oh, I love
Praise
Lincoln
God.
Park. Okay.
All right.
Jeez.
So anyway, this is like we're 18 and supervising 14-year-olds. And this is when I find out she wasn't even allowed to listen to real rock and roll music.
Oh.
And so
You fell in love even more.
Then I was like, so if I show you this Guns N' Roses record, you've never heard it before. Take me down to a paradise city. But so I'm pretty sure she's high from secondhand smoke. And she's paranoid. Like extremely paranoid. Like there might be within view of us 5 people you can see their faces. Which if everyone was in the seats, like it was in the Coliseum and it wasn't like post 9/11, you'd have seen hundreds of people.
Sure.
Right.
Like you had a whole row. No one was near you. She's like, I really feel like there's a lot of people in here. And my mouth is very dry. Like everything like you could think of. And she's like, what's going on? Like, I don't know, Tripp. Like, and in my head, I'm like, I mean, she didn't like bring weed, did she? Like, I'm sitting there going like, did she secretly smoke weed?
Right.
And eventually she's like, why do they put their smoke out between the shows?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, there's always lots of smoke between the shows. And I was like, the people are smoking between the shows.
I feel like we're getting behind the scenes of you and Alicia
18-year-old
today.
fundamentalist in the South.
It's pretty great.
And I said, have you ever been to a rock concert before? Well, yeah, I went to a DC Talk concert. And I was like, no, like a real one. And
DC Talk's real, Tripp.
yeah, but like, one that doesn't like creatively combine rap, rock, and soul.
Right.
For, the preface statement to a Billy Graham sermon. So like, I realized that and I was like, oh no, though they're smoking weed. She's like, isn't that a drug? And I was like, yes. And they just like do it in the middle of just here. I was like, yeah. But the cops don't arrest them.
I think that's beautiful.
The cop, they don't just like get
and
arrested.
You corrupted that beautiful mind? I'm kidding. It's okay. Own
who
it.
corrupted who is a separate conversation. But I just was like, oh, my bad. Because I was like the person that didn't do anything in high school, but was present for all of it.
Same.
Right. Yeah, me too.
I was like the kid who graduated without drinking, smoking, or having sex, but like could have over and over again.
Right.
And
chose not to.
Well, Jesus was my sidekick. So
I just had, a high bar for moral integrity. So
yep.
I mean,
high five.
Yeah.
Mine was a combination of both.
I internalized the law like a champ. I was also real bitter when I found out other people didn't.
It's a fairness streak, man.
Yeah, it is.
See, part of it for me was just like, because everyone else was doing it, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, me too.
But
we might have the same program of like, go against the grain.
Yeah. Contrarian.
My dad had this trick, and I swear it's a trick. I'm ready to use it.
Oh, this will be fascinating.
Where he told me when I was in middle school, and the first time I guess I had like a friend, I was like, he said it was a roach. And my dad's like, that's marijuana. And I was like, oh no, my friend's in trouble. He goes, no, you just tell me. Look, Tripp, honestly, at some point you're going to say to yourself, I want to drink, I want to smoke. And I just want you to know, no biggie. I just want you to tell me, because I don't want you to get bad weed. If you want to smoke, I have friends that smoke regularly. I'll get guys good weed. If you want to drink, we can, and we'll do it together. I just don't want you lying to me and going behind my back or putting yourself in a dangerous situation. And
that was enough.
And so like it ruined its coolness or like off limits thing. And I remember telling my dad that later, and he's like, that worked.
So are you going to use that with Elgin?
Yeah, but I'm not going to.
I feel like the culture's different out here.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that doesn't work in Southern California. It only works as a Baptist preacher's kid in the South. In Southern California, if you're like, well, if you want to know, just let me know.
They're like, okay,
and he's like,
let's go tonight.
Well, like, by what does that mean, Dad?
Yeah.
Is this a test? Like, so Alicia's like at this concert, Stone Temple Pilots is starting, and she was having really paranoid statements coming out of her mouth before it starts. Well, then when it starts, now she's not someone that loses personal control.
Right.
She has a high desire to be in complete control of everything, not just herself.
Right.
The universe.
Well, we already talked about the lack of control, but we'll let you keep going here.
And all of a sudden it starts, and their first song, like, it comes out and it goes, and she's been sitting there like all tight, and then all of a sudden she's like, and I've never like seen that I don't think I've seen it since then. Like, it was just like, yeah, and she like starts like jumping around like all like crazy and junk, and it was one of the funniest things. So yeah, Stone Temple Pilots was her first secondhand experience, and I don't remember what started the story at this point.
Who knows, really?
It was a great story, really solid.
And it
Stained.
was
The name of the book.
The name of the book and the website.
Oh my goodness!
That was a great
Nathan
little
wins.
Nathan, you do win.
Thank you.
That was
points.
great. This is how you remind me of her. Yeah.
That's pretty. It actually wasn't that close, but it started out pretty solid. I mean, I can't do any better, so I don't know why I'm critiquing you.
I'm pretty sure you had a parenthetical comment in the middle of this interview that was just like, I sound like an adolescent girl, but I don't do this all the time. I have 3 children.
Maybe I do it all the time.
Has anyone ever asked if you and your daughter were sisters?
Thanks, Tripp, for
Funny
that
you should
lead-in.
bring that up.
Yes, Tripp, that happened today.
You don't have to go into it.
Okay.
It was
a nice, you know how people try to compliment you? I think that's more what it was.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah. Well, look,
Anyway.
I really feel like using his first name is about a compliment considering what he's working with.
This is true.
So you want to know what the creepiest moment like that is?
I do. I want to know
I've
the
been in a
creepiest
restaurant.
moment.
So Alicia and my mom's birthdays are 3 days apart. And we went to Applebee's that I worked at in college because I was like, well, y'all could both claim your birthday and this could be great. Plus, I'm friends with the manager because I got 3 golden apples in about 4 months.
I'm going to have to hear what a golden apple is.
High quality service.
Isn't that from some Greek myth, where you had to get the...
I mostly think it was that because I didn't lie, I actually reported all my tips. So my tip outs were very high. I didn't realize other waiters reported the minimum amount of tips.
I feel like this is a repetitive thing. You didn't think everyone else smoked pot and you were like...
Yeah, I followed rules, basically.
Okay, we got it. Except for this rule where you had them both get their birthdays.
No, I told them that, like, my mom is the 29th.
Oh, okay.
We have a 26th and 29th birthday. Well, so it's all going whatnot. But our waiter was not like there when I was there. And he says, that's so cool that 2 sisters' birthdays are that close together.
That's great.
And my dad looks at me and just starts laughing and goes, this is going to bother you for years. And then another time we were out with Elgin was just born, and it was me and Alicia Elgin and my brother. And they thought that Steven and Alicia were siblings. And they're like, oh, it's my brother. And I was like, no, he's my brother. And so those are both creepy.
They sound really creepy.
The mom was definitely worse.
My all of my friends talked. They all thought my mom was a MILF, and so I got a lot.
I'm sorry, Nathan. What's a MILF?
Well,
I know what a MILF is, but
so I got an earful all the time from all my friends. So I don't know. I think that is way worse than thinking your mom and sister are, or mom and wife are sisters.
I don't know.
I think that he might have a point there. Can you one up that? Because truthfully, Nathan's winning right now.
I still don't even know what those letters stand. Because
then we'll just have
Mother,
to.
I'd like to French. I think is.
That's the PG version. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know. I remember that in Springfield, where they do the Subverting the Norm conferences, there's a beer called MILF and it tasted good, but that's all I got.
That's all I know.
Yeah. So anyway,
we've gone on a lot of really interesting tangents tonight.
Well, we should have another tangent, namely Walter Brueggemann, the Brueggemeister. So
we'll throw him in here with these high level.
The Brueggemeister, Meister Brugge.
Well, so the Hatchery works with the United Theological Seminary, where you're doing your master's, and our students do their master's there as well. And last summer we had a class that Brueggemann taught, and you were like,
well, it was an Old Testament credit, and I was like, I still have to do my Old Testament credit. No brainer. I'm going to come out to Los Angeles instead of the Twin Cities, and I'm going to enjoy Brueggemann. And not only enjoy him, but get to do adult vacation Bible school.
Yeah.
Which is its own little treat. And so, over the course of the 5 days where he would speak every morning and blow our minds in like a really compassionate way, like I really appreciate. I don't know what I expected.
He blew our minds tenderly. Yeah.
Yes.
With love.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I'd read Brueggemann before, but in person, is he a gilf? Wow. We're going to just not touch that.
Grandpa, I'd like to think with.
Tripp, I just don't know where to go from there. But I will say that he's incredibly inspirational, not only in what he has written, but more so even, I think, in person. So yeah, after getting to be tenderly mind blown, we are a bunch of
we're going to retry that all together.
After being a bunch of adolescents,
you can't
laugh.
We can't.
I did it on purpose. I didn't think it would be that funny, but it was. I'm sorry.
Look, even Dino decided to come over here. She's
I know.
What's going on?
But so after that, I don't even think we can say it. But so then I was, thinking this, similar project that I got to do with Caputo. Why couldn't we do something like it? I mean, It Spooks went over really well. There was a lot of really great feedback to the idea that, they hadn't seen this sort of compilation put together. And Brueggemann was familiar with the book too. And I just, went up to him and said, and I was throwing around ideas first for the title because I wanted to kind of, before I wooed him, I wanted to come up with something. So technically, Nathan was standing in the front, I remember, actually by one of the pillars in the hatchery. And I had a little drawing on the back of the book with the name. Did I have Antidote, or you helped with that part?
I don't remember. I helped with
You
some
came
part
up with one part.
Yeah.
The idea of the book, or like the title that we have right now, that's the working title, is not right in front of me here. So hold on.
Antidote.
Gosh. People.
Yeah,
I'd be more protective.
Controlling her phone.
People, namely me. Let's see. Maybe it was. I'm digressing.
I'm pretty sure you said it was
Antidote. Right here. It's called Antidote.
Oh.
And then Interruptions of Lament and of New Originary Stirrings.
Say it one more time.
Antidote, and then it's a colon.
Yeah.
Interruptions.
What?
Good. Of Lament and of New Originary Stirrings. And it's the idea, you guys are all giggle boxes now, which is...
No, go ahead.
But it's the idea that grief work, and especially out loud grief work done together, is the antidote to denial. And denial of, so much of what we've been saying, like denial of death, like that's the literal death, our own mortality, but also denial of the death, the seasons of life and the skins we shed and the ways we grow, and just that there's a ton of grief work to be done as a culture. And specifically, I think Brueggemann does a really brilliant job of showing that Christianity has this ability to show up to grief. This idea that Christ came to live on earth, like even in and of itself, if you think about this, like I'm going to come and suffer and be present and be human and grieve. And grief for me is about showing up to pain. And it's not like you have to dive into life is only suffering or only pain, because it's not. But it's not just joy. And I feel like in our Western culture in particular, we chase after the joy, the pleasure, the only positive side of, everything. And I feel like that's been a huge disservice to us. And I think that there's a lot of imbalance that's happened because of that. And so out loud grief work is one way, hence the title Antidote, to potentially, shift the scales a little and maybe bring some more vulnerability back in, not only to the churches, but into our humanity and into our relationships with one another and with ourselves. And yeah.
So, if someone's sitting there and saying,
wow, I listened to all of this and I finally, no, I'm kidding. Keep going.
No, around 60% of the 60,000 listeners will make it to the last 5 minutes. So if this is in the last 5 minutes, we have a very high finish rate for the podcast. And now some people say, why do you have a high finish rate? Is it because everyone loves you? No, I think it's that we eliminate in the first time you ever listen to the podcast, anyone that doesn't really want to listen to long theological conversations.
We really found our market.
Yeah. We rock the niche like a champ.
I am proud of both of you.
We're niche scratchers.
Well, don't look at me.
Well, Nathan, you help, but Tripp, I'm proud of you.
Look, I like to let everyone contribute their...
Can you give a compliment, but you can't receive one? Because I just complimented you. And the
Thank you.
Yay! And we made eye contact for those of you who are listening.
Oh.
He accepted the compliment.
Well, now that your hair is pulled back, your eyes are gleaming. You may keep making more compliments?
I'm not very good at, I'm projecting because I'm not good at hearing them either. Go ahead. I'm aware.
You want more compliments while holding eye contact?
Let's stare contest. Let's go.
No.
You already blinked.
Yeah, I suck at that.
You guys are weird.
We're weird. I'm just, like competitive affirmations. You're like, you don't want me to compliment you.
It's just the competitive part, I think.
Yeah, no. I was thinking you were awkward for the affirmations part, Nathan.
Yeah. Nah.
You want to know something that's not an affirmation?
Sure.
Nathan left the word "you" out of a card.
That's true.
That we had a lot of them printed up.
I made a mistake.
And
you know what? We all make mistakes.
I know.
Mistakes are just new opportunities to learn.
Exactly. And Nathan was just like beating himself up. And I'm like, dude, I'm dyslexic. That makes me handing it out with the word out of it a joke. I can it will land. Everyone will hold this card and I'll say, hey, do you notice that it's missing the word you?
Yes. What is this card for?
Exactly. Signing up for the Open and Relational Theology Youth Ministry. It's a free video learning series. And it says, if you text Open Youth to 44222,
then you'll
nice.
get updates and access to it.
Yeah, but it's missing the word you on the card we handed out.
But people fill it in. But we have a smart population.
We do have a smart population. But Home Spice was not going to let it go.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I know. He's just a Debbie Downer.
So, I decided to skip the entire Progressive Youth Ministry Conference just because I was so upset by it.
Yeah.
That seems overreactionary.
Well, it was a bit overreactionary. But if it's in Montreat next year, I think you'll go. Because I love the Appalachian Mountains.
I've never been.
You haven't been?
Beautiful.
Well, your daughter just went to the ocean for the first time today.
I know. I took her today.
I know.
It's a pretty big deal.
Have you
Nothing like the Blue Ridge Mountains.
in the fall? Like, I don't know what it smelled like on Easter morning, but it should have smelled like
Decaying leaves.
like where it's like half have fallen and the other half are just sitting there like red, orange, yellow, and it's all crackly and little resurrected feet with holes in it. Just crickle crack. It's a different type of crack.
You know, it's blonde. It's confusing me. Number one, I have like pop or Cocoa, or what is it? Pop Krispies or Rice Krispies in my mind. But then also that you're talking about Easter and then fall sort of weather at the same time.
But you know, in Australia, it makes sense. It's just a shout out to the Australians.
We're going to do that thing where we do the epiphanation for the Australians.
Oh, that's true.
It's going to happen.
Do you know that, this is a total silly tangent, but
well, this podcast
Rapid City, South Dakota has, 2 coffee shops.
Oh.
No, but actually that's pretty close. Have 2 coffee
Kangaroos.
shops called Essence of Coffee, and the owner is Australian.
Yeah, the Australian
He
third
comes
wave
from-
coffee is pretty.
Yeah, it's legitimately
legit.
like they just upped our level of coolness in Rapid City by at least 2 notches. So
It's true. Now that I know that.
what's
that's
it
my
at?
shout out to Australia. What up?
What's its level at? It upped it by 2.
Yeah,
Where was it starting?
we're already at
Positives,
like, you know what?
negatives?
We're at positive. You know, I'm going to be modest. I think it's about 32 out of a scale of 40.
Oh,
Who has a skill? Anyway.
I just made
That's
it up
about
on the
as-
spot, Nathan. Don't
a scale
Don't
out of
question
40.
it.
Look, you gotta tell her your birth month, date, and year.
you
for
know
her to
what?
decide your
There is
scale.
no contestation for this. And that was a quote from A Knight's Tale.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
No
Tangent number
contestation.
20. Yeah.
So, speaking of the Joker,
We are so. Yeah, you did just pull Heath Ledger. Way to go. That was
like
impressive. I missed the guy. Not that I knew him, but
rest in peace.
Great
Your
actor.
daughter's watching a Heath Ledger movie.
yeah. She loves him. I mean,
Aren't they watching a Heath Ledger movie?
no.
She's asleep.
Yeah. My daughter fell asleep.
She fell asleep.
But she
almost
fell
immediately.
asleep?
Yeah.
Anyway, they were going to watch Pitch Perfect, which is not at all.
Yeah, I
a
don't think
Ledger
Heath
movie.
Ledger's in that.
But back to the Joker.
But he was in the other movie that it made me think of.
Yeah, 10 Things I Hate About You. But anyway.
Correct.
Yes.
They all run together.
Yeah, they
have
do.
a very similar
I-
plot. Slightly outcast male and female.
Yep.
Cross, like,
Singing.
funny, overlap. Do they want to, someone bet somebody, can we really be together? They get back together.
Sounds like Romeo and Juliet, except for no tragedy. So
one
back to the Joker, or were you going to go with somewhere with that?
Well, you know why he smiles, right?
He gives a number of different reasons. Why?
You know, the reason we don't know which story he gives is correct.
Why?
Is we don't know what his month, birthday,
Oh,
and birth
his
year is.
numerology, that would all tie it together.
He probably doesn't have one.
Nathan, I feel like we should do your numerology.
Well, here's something.
Oh my goodness, you're going to.
He tells everyone he's 21.
That's not true.
He and Pete, they like to underage themselves.
I was born on July 24th,
Hold on,
1986.
that's 7.
24, 1986. At 12:48 p.m.
That part I don't know about.
Well, those are numbers.
You are a 1.
I knew that.
It's a very masculine number.
What are these
Are you
numbers?
surprised?
A little
You are a
bit,
male.
honestly. No.
You're
You
a
can-
male.
This is true.
I know.
It's a leadership
Well, that's
number.
also
It's
my Enneagram
it's like,
number. P.S.
oh, seriously? I don't even know what my Enneagram number is.
Well, what's your typology of?
But I'm a
It's
I'm a
numerology.
How many
I don't know if
numbers
I should
do you
tell
got?
you.
How many numbers are there?
9.
I think that there's 12.
You think there's 12?
No, there are. Some people debate.
as a
Hey, listen,
typer
I'm
here-
not like an expert, okay?
You just like did our numbers and you
Yeah.
don't even know how many are available.
I'm a one-trick person. No. Okay, so
Don't say nice things.
12, I believe, is like what is understood, that there's 12. And 11 and 12 are master numbers.
Hold on one for a second. 12 is, I understand there is a 12. Like, what was that sentence about?
You know what? Because some people would say there's 13. And I don't.
Those people are clearly full of shit.
But if you must know my number, I'm an 11, which is a master number, as I mentioned.
That is a Spinal Tap number. I feel like
Turning it up to 11.
if there was the optimal human, they should be 11 because they turn it all up to 11. Have you ever danced around with a midget around a fake version?
I feel like, first of all, the word midget, I have a hard time with.
Have you not watched Spinal Tap?
No, I haven't.
Are you serious?
Oh my God, we should go to that right now. We did. Okay. I was in this.
Spinal Tap's a mockumentary about an 80s rock band. And they have this song called Stonehenge.
I did that for Halloween one year.
They draw out for their set person to like make them a Stonehenge. They put the wrong number of check marks next to the numbers, so they think inches instead of feet. And they like have this huge buildup, and in comes this like, I don't know, it looks like a sub sandwich, like size. It's so small version of Stonehenge, not like a real one.
Yeah.
And they had like, and they're British.
Right.
And they had like hired a bunch of midget dancers, which they call midgets. That's why, like, and he's like, why would I make a big Stonehenge and hire 4 midgets if they can't even fit around? Anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to run out and see that.
It's really funny.
Have you? What are all the movies?
Waiting for Guffman.
Waiting for Guffman. First in Class or
Best in Show.
Best in Show.
What's the A Mighty Wind?
A Mighty Wind. The Bluegrass mockumentary.
Yeah.
Like
mockumentary. I've never even heard
a documentary
that word. Well, I get it. I get what you're saying by mockumentary. I've just never heard of that.
Attached word mock.
Oh wait, can you break it apart for me? I'm not really sure what you mean.
I don't know. Y'all are the one throwing acronyms all over the place. Like MILF, filth, I don't know.
Stained, that's one, right?
Stained. Mm-hmm.
The way they spelled it. I was part of a Halloween production of the Spinal Tap album.
I
played the mandolin part for Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
They got the costumes and it was hilarious.
So they don't know.
Seems hilarious.
It's a concert's going on. And they don't know that this really itty bitty version of Stonehenge is coming down. So the whole thing's built around the premise that there's this like
huge,
set piece coming out. And like, I don't know if lots of people have a large anticipation of a very dramatic event, but the set piece is significantly reduced compared to the anticipated size. And the only thing that's rocking around it, like if the midgets are bigger than the set piece.
Yeah, I can see how that would be.
You really haven't seen this movie?
I've never seen it. I never have. And I like movies, so that's weird. But
is it? So
maybe.
In that movie, they have a bit in the documentary that's not a real documentary because it's a mockumentary. The guitar player is explaining to the guy interviewing him how he gets his tone. So he's like, how do you get your tone? And like, he has his guitar out and he has his amp and he says crap about his guitar with sustain that is like a poorly explained version of a Les Paul having large sustain. Then he's like, but I got my amp. Other ones, the knobs go up to 10, but mine goes up to 11.
Oh, now it all becomes clear.
Yeah. So turning it up to 11 and the guy's like, well, isn't that just a ratio? Like whatever the max is.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He's like, this one goes up to 11. And like, he was a straight face, like, no, mine goes to 11. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So you're an 11. So there's like,
everyone else stops at 10.
Yeah. Yours.
Some people go to 12.
No.
But 12 isn't
We're
brighter.
missing the point.
I get it. Okay. Thank you.
If you had the pop culture reference that was, this is Spinal Tap, the mockumentary.
Yeah, I would have laughed or like been really touched by it. But you just said it and I was like,
your numerical essentialization to the number 11, that reference would have been an affirmation of your selfhood.
Or we just might have been making fun of you since it is a mockumentary. Who knows?
Yeah. But none of it was to be making fun of people with
well, of course not.
Yeah, but none of it was about people that are short.
Well, I'm glad that you've changed it to people who are short.
Well, it's just in the movie.
I get it. Actually, in South Dakota, they still call like football for young kids midget football. It's a little ridiculous, but
They probably also still have helmets, pads, and tackle.
it's true. Are they not supposed to?
You have to play flag football here.
Concussions and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
really... I coached football this past year. I actually never played football, which made me coaching it one thing. My team is badass, though. But it's mostly just because I could control children. I'm pretty sure
With
the
your
other...
mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm basically Professor X.
It's an unknown talent of yours, yes.
No.
Known now. To the
That's why
50,000
we have a
subscribers.
60% listen rate.
Yeah, because you
It's
expose
about
secrets
to
at the
drop.
end.
It's about to drop. But for those that are lingering on, and we'll make sure we add this to the intro, but the project is in development for the Brueggemann book, and you'll be collecting a whole bunch of different contributors. And if people want to make it happen, they can go to where, connect with you how, and be like, clearly this should happen because we want to know what the 11th contribution is going to be, namely yours. And if you're not the 11th one, it's really going to be disappointing because you are 11. You've turned your life
That's
up
what you
to
should,
11.
you should find out what
I
everyone's number
feel
is.
like
and
I'm
put it in
gonna,
that
I'm gonna have to do something with this.
And your
11
reflection
thing.
is going to be about this is Spinal Tap.
I can't make any promises, but
So what's the website
yes,
again?
the book title again.
The website.
Oh, the
where they
website.
can go to find out more.
So Shelter50Publishing.com.
And the 50, that's 50.
Yeah, 50. And the hope is, yeah, I mean, really what is the tricky part for us with, publishing books, is the idea of the fundraising to make some of it happen because we pay the people who do the graphic designing and, typesetting and such. And
Which, I mean, it's amazing work.
yeah, it is. And I wish that I had that talent because I would just kind of throw that in, but that isn't my particular talent. That's okay.
Can people donate on the website?
We will make it possible. So I don't think it's set up right now, but I mean, within the week we could do that. I don't know
By the
when
time this comes
I don't
out,
know
it
when
will.
this is going to air.
Yeah.
So by the time this airs, yes, it will be possible.
And the details were in the intro you just listened to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like 55 minutes ago.
And
An hour and 45.
Oh,
I figured
no.
there'd be some editing. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
A little bit.
But anyway, the Shelter50Publishing.com website will also give you an idea of some of the other book projects that are coming up. And there's a lot of really fun things to be supporting.
Every
And
time I have an idea, I always think, oh, that'd make a great Shelter 50 book.
thanks, Nathan. Yeah. And there are people who randomly write us and ask, I have 3 or 4 books right now that are in process. The Brueggemann one just happens to be the biggest name. But you know what? All of you are important people. And I don't just say that. And all of your stories matter. And, the big,
She wants to turn your life to 11.
well, no, but truthfully, the Publishing Collective exists to give voice to culturally subversive and revolutionary stories and ideas. And so, if you have some of those, throw them my way. We can see what we can do. And I mean, we've published memoirs. We've published all sorts of things from, I don't know, the combination of a bunch of people into one thing or just one person writing a book. So,
How many millions of dollars have you made off publishing? I know
gosh, we've
people always
lost.
think-
I just did my taxes and yeah, the Publishing Collective has lost money, but that's okay because primarily it's just because I like to fly friends out and then, brainstorm about it and then write it off. So I don't know if that counts.
I don't know.
Sorry, the IRS, but it's true.
I'm pretty sure our
That's all right.
president hasn't paid
I think it's smarter
taxes.
if you don't pay taxes, right? Like, you're really smart if you don't. I think that's how it works now.
Anyway, my point is without you, I don't know how we're going to do it.
Well,
That can be cut.
no, I
It's true, but
like authentic desperation.
thanks, Tripp.
Okay, I will start singing a song. You make
Kumbaya.
the plea. No.
I can't sing, Tripp. This voice.
Arms of an angel. Say like desperate
I love
things.
that song, Sarah McLachlan.
And dead puppies.
I could sing this
and cats.
When I had a voice. I feel like you're editing the words.
Well, they always play it with like a little
Sad
adoptable
animal
Yeah,
puppy.
it
thing.
is. Oh, they do?
Yeah. You've not seen
I'm
that
from
commercial?
South Dakota and I don't watch TV.
Oh my God. No Facebook, no TV. You've not had that song ruined by dead animals on your TV screen?
No, I haven't. Guys.
Okay. So like,
I think City of Angels, and that's pretty much what comes to mind for that.
No.
That is. That's where the song came from, correct?
I have no idea.
Who knows?
It's currently attached to dead children.
Don't show it to me. I'm not going to watch it, Tripp.
No,
You're
have to.
corrupting me.
It's like if you only donate 10 cents a day, you will help feed an entire village.
Really?
Yeah. Or
well, I'm not trying to belittle that. There are a lot of needs out there. This publishing collective is.
See, look how nice you are.
No, but I'm being honest. Like, I feel like transformation, which is. Oh, please don't show it.
Oh,
listen, I feel like Jesus is about transformation, and I feel like stories are about transformation. Oh my gosh, he's playing this. Oh, this is really sad.
You see those pictures?
Yes, I see puppies that look really sad, and a cat.
So for people with TVs and the internet,
you probably shouldn't watch this if you have TVs or the internet.
You know, you should use your
This was a good song.
To go to Shelter50. Give your website right now.
I'm not even going to do it, Tripp.
Because
this is blasphemy. Because you're playing on the, you're using music to manipulate the people.
Religious people can be upset about the use of music.
I know, right?
What's the limit on how long we can play something like that legally?
Like
30 seconds?
It's 45 seconds.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah McLaughlin.
Oh, and they even got Sarah McLaughlin to.
Every day, innocent animals are.
Okay, let's turn it off.
Innocent shelters for publishing.
But you know what? My youngest daughter is a huge advocate for animals and would be all about that. So she'd be like, "Don't do the publishing collective, do the animals."
You got Abe.
So I have a lot of creative ideas, and so if you don't want to help the animals, you can help make this a reality.
Yeah, finally.
Otherwise, no animals are harmed in the making of books, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, so it's fine.
I mean, unless, I don't know. No.
I mean, unless you count destroying their habitat.
South Dakota's like so out of it. You didn't even know a Sarah McLaughlin song.
We're not that out of it. You can't judge all of South Dakota just by me.
Why not? You're like 1/11th of the.
You need to come out and visit because it's a cool place. Plus, I mean, the community that I'm a part of.
Half of the 100 podcast listeners in South Dakota will say they'll show up the same day, we can do it. Okay.
Done.
It's just,
You know what? Let's just be honest. Tonight we went to dinner, and this is not to guilt anyone that bailed, but people flaked out. There was a really good group that got to come together, but there were about double that had committed to me, and the last hour, all of them flaked, which is okay. It happens. Flaked. But my point is, in South Dakota, we don't
name names.
Tripp. In South Dakota,
I didn't flake.
Hold on. In South Dakota, we don't flake. So if half of us say we're going to show up, we'll be there. That's my whole point.
So now you can't speak for everyone.
Yeah, I am. I can speak for South Dakota because
you want to know the last person that actually got the entire Fuller family to show up at a restaurant?
Aw. That's 2 times you made me say aw.
Actually, I got to think.
And no Sarah McLaughlin was needed.
Like, if you throw in while Alicia's pregnant, I'm pretty sure there's not anyone.
Yeah, see? Look at that.
But I had to tell her, I was like, but I will give you a foot rub before and after.
Oh, nice. Did you, actually
I'm an excellent foot massager.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
He's massaging my foot right now. It feels amazing.
Yeah. Actually, I don't.
How do you think I make it through the intros we do?
I don't know who. I can't even tell you who the last person was that the whole family showed up for that wasn't like family. See? You're a winner.
That's pretty special, Tripp.
I mean,
legit.
Now, Elgin may have been very angsty for the first half of the meal.
I know, but then he talked to Ellie about,
Once she had talked to him about basketball.
I know, he was so golden.
It's so funny to think that they're 4 or 5 years apart.
How old is Elgin?
I know, so in college, they might make out.
Oh, not happening, but is Elgin how old?
I don't know. 9.
9.
Well, she's 14, almost 15.
I know.
So 5-6 years.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, it could happen. Weird.
It's pretty weird.
Weird. She's 6'1". Did we mention that? I didn't hear what you said. But...
I did it off mic on purpose.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
It was a joke. You'd probably appreciate it.
Okay.
The internet. Well, they might appreciate it, but I would regret it.
Secrets don't make friends.
I don't
you can
know.
tell us later.
I don't know. This one's funny, but not nearly as funny as a life that doesn't support the production of this book. If you love puppies,
oh no,
cats, Jesus, the number 11. Or
I feel like this is a Sesame Street.
Yeah, this episode is brought to you by number 11.
The letter that we've been working with today.
Mm-hmm. And in other pagan rituals connected to, like, the only reason you can get away with pagan ritual references is because you had a commune.
Christianity, we don't need to say that, but has a lot of its roots in paganism.
I mean, look,
we made it cool, but we have to acknowledge that.
You know what else we can acknowledge?
What?
That we'll discuss that in the next time you're on the podcast.